Well, hey, folks. Pelosi goes to Taiwan. Isn't that fun? I'm going to say it right now. I'm a flag-waving American. I believe in the Constitution of the United States, but I do not believe in Nancy Pelosi. I don't respect the woman. I don't like the woman. She's the very kind of woman that I've talked about for years in my former channel when I dealt with the feminization of American women. Nancy Pelosi lives by a double standard. She promotes socialism, but she's worth in the neighborhood of $100 to $300 million. She lives in a mansion. She doesn't know what it is to suffer. She doesn't care about the working class. She doesn't care about the little guy. She is a self-serving, grandstanding narcissist. When she ripped up the copy of the State of the Union address during a Trump speech, that showed me a lot. Nancy Pelosi's been in politics for a long time and has accomplished absolutely nothing but the further ruination of civility and values in this country. She promotes wicked women. She promotes feminism, and she is responsible for condoning the genocide of 62 million babies called abortion. I don't care what anybody says, abortion is wrong. I have the peace of God on that one. And I don't like Pelosi. Pelosi doesn't investigate anything that matters. She didn't lead the charge against Epstein and Ghislaine. She didn't want to get to the bottom of who all slept with all these teenage girls with Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell. Rumor has it Gates was involved. Rumor has it that one of British royalty was involved. And rumor has it the Clintons and others, possibly Republicans, were involved in that sexual fantasy island. Pelosi wanted to impeach Trump immediately. What did he do? Nothing. She just wanted to impeach him. She's immature. She's an adult, old woman toddler. There are not too many women that I respect in leadership roles in today's culture. Okay? And because my mind fails me, I'm going to look up something. That's it. Margaret Thatcher is a lady that I respected. The U.S. respected Margaret Thatcher. Margaret Thatcher, I don't believe that she would respect Pelosi. Just my opinion. When we had the pandemic of COVID-19, when people were losing their jobs because they had to close up restaurants, hair salons, bars, nightclubs, theaters, and a lot of people lost their shirts, lost their credit, forfeiture loans, and Pelosi's got a soy boy advertising for her in the midst of this horrible time. Nancy and her little ice cream addiction in her well-stocked ice cream freezers in her mansion. Do I need to even bother to say how disgusting and repugnant that was? While Americans were suffering, and people around the globe, I have friends in the Philippines, they had no income, they had nothing coming in, they were hurting, they couldn't go anywhere, they couldn't get work, they were also on lockdown. And Pelosi cannot speak the English language properly. She can't say S. She has to put an H to it. Suffering. Her husband's an alcoholic. And his trial's tomorrow. People are always saying that Nancy Pelosi's motivation for going to Taiwan has something to do with the integrated circuit chips, the IC chips. Many people believe that her and her husband are connected with the stocks and funding of that. She's probably going over there with a cash payout. Anything that Nancy Pelosi does should have a big giant red flag over it and a question mark. She has nothing to do with Asian culture. Just like she has nothing to do with African culture when she tried to wear African dress and put a big dog and pony show with Black Lives Matters. Remember, Pelosi doesn't hang out with Asians. She doesn't hang out with Africans. Nancy Pelosi hangs out with her own white, rich, affluent kind. And that needs to be noted. And a lot of people would be upset at me for saying this, but this is my opinion and I have a right to it. China has made threats. They made threats today. They made a threat that they, something to do with, shoot a plane out of the sky. And I told my friends today, I said, if that actually happened, China would be doing the U.S. a favor. Yes, that would be a provocation against the U.S., and that's not good. But God can use a very bad and wicked nation, worse than ourselves, to judge people. He did it in the Old Testament. Was it Habakkuk prayed, "Oh God, please deliver us from our enemies," and God says, I'm going to bring this nation against them. And Habakkuk's like, wait a minute, they're even worse. God says, I know. I'm going to use them to displace the ones over you now, and then I'm going to eventually get down. The Bible talks about Gog and Magog in Ezekiel 38:39. It says God will put hooks in their mouth and pull them out. They will come out. That's Russia and a conflagration of nations. Persia, which would probably be Iran and Iraq, Turkey, possibly Germany, is all going to align themselves and come up against Israel, and it will probably have something to do with trying to gain oil and or just to push them out of the sea and kill them once and for all. But the Bible says God will turn back but a sixth of thee. Russia's going to be annihilated. And Bible scholars said it's interesting to note that the nations that come with them, they're going to be mostly Muslim nations. So much for the championship of all. But I want to say something. Nancy Pelosi will probably come home unscathed again. It's amazing how much immunity, protection, and think about all the money that's being spent right now out of yours and my tax dollars, sending all these, aircraft ships and military might out there standing by to protect Miss Pelosi. It don't make much sense, folks. My question is she worth it? I don't think so. Sounds like a train coming through my house. This is not a Christian thing to say. It's not a nice thing to say, but I'm going to be honest with what is inside of me. If her plane was struck out of the sky, I'm sorry, but I'd say, God, thank you for getting rid of her. What really angers me is the way the Democrats talk about us. Hillary Clinton called us deplorables. You listen to these feminists that are against white males and Republican males and God-fearing males. You're hearing them talk about Christian nationalism, and I am not. I do not support Christian nationalism because people are flawed. The Constitution was set up, the separation of church and state. State couldn't control the church, and church couldn't control the state. That does not mean that a Christian man cannot run for office or a woman and use their convictions to guide them in making decisions on legislation and voting issues. But no, the only theocracy that's going to work is when God himself is in charge, not man. Nancy Pelosi has been a self-serving woman. She has gotten filthy rich being a politician with kickbacks, payouts, plus her dumping of stocks and having inside information and stuff like that. if the curtain were to be lifted off most of the Democrat and yes, even Republican shenanigans on Capitol Hill, it would shock the hell out of all of us. I love Asian culture. I flew over Taipei 3 times going to Hong Kong, and I looked down on the city. Beautiful. It makes me sick that a rotten individual like Pelosi gets to just jet set over there on an American plane. It's disgusting. She's the last person we should be sending, and we shouldn't be sending anybody right now with the tension. Biden has done nothing to stop Russia, but the Democrats all got behind the Ukraine, and I'm going to say it again. Listen to the words Pelosi used. We need to stand with the democracy. Isn't that funny? She's attacking our very own democracy. They want everybody forced to go to electric. They don't want anybody burning oil anymore. And now just today, the ding-dong spokesperson for President Biden, who was bragging, I'm black and I'm lesbian. Wow, that's the first thing out of your mouth? Can we get to the business of fixing this country? Nobody really cares if you're black or lesbian. They really don't. Can you fix the economy? Today she was bragging that the prices are going down, and that's all Biden is doing that. Really? Remember, midterms are coming up. Watch them pull some rabbits out of their hats. But Biden said he wasn't responsible for the gas prices going up to begin with, so how did he get them to come down? The Democrats always lie. Pelosi is an evil, wicked Jezebel woman. When she tore up the State of the Union address, she had no decorum, no proper protocol, no professionalism whatsoever. She looked like an adult toddler. Her hatred for Trump is evident. And she is riding on this January 6th thing. She hates him. She doesn't want him to run again. Because she knows that if Trump and Republicans get control and they start digging up in the swamp, there's a whole bunch of people that are going to be going to prison over there. Hillary, her husband, there's so much out there. The Clintons have had people killed that had any knowledge of their corruption and what they've done. And I'm going to tell you, it's one thing to say, well, we all have our differences, but this is not an opinion. Nancy Pelosi is bad blood. And I believe that with all my heart. She's not a kind woman. She's not a lady. She's a self-serving, rude woman. She has no business in Taiwan. We shouldn't poke the bear. People are saying, even on Fox News, that it's good that Nancy went over there. It's good that we're standing up. Standing up, huh? At Fox News, you've been talking about Pelosi and talking about this administration, how screwed up they are. Now you're supporting Pelosi going over there to put a middle finger in the face of China. Let's unpack this for a minute. Pelosi's over here promoting taking away our freedoms. Remember what she said about the mask. If they didn't wear a mask, she called it her house. She's going to fine them $1,500. Really? She can do that? She's a control freak? She doesn't care about me. She doesn't care about any of the U.S. citizens down here on my level. She cares about her little groupies, the swamp rats. She's promoting socialism over here. She is not a constitutionalist. Not at all. And then she has the audacity to make a stance against China. The Biden administration has been praising China. The NBA has been praising China. They all want to get contracts and play for China. LeBron runs his mouth constantly about America's racist and the cops, and he even talks ignorantly when a white cop responded to a black girl teen calling in. Somebody was threatening her, The officer pulled up, and a black girl, charged at him with a knife. And he was too far away to intervene, and all he did was well-placed shot. When the woman that was saved was interviewed, she goes, yeah, the cop shot her. She was about to put a knife in me. And LeBlanc made some stupid, rude, uncalled for comment, slighting the white officer. And this is the mood of the country now. He also ran his mouth recently about telling Reiner, do you really want to come back to the U.S.? They're not even doing anything to rescue you. Why should they? Why should they rescue Reiner? She's against the anthem being sung. She's got an attitude. Okay, yeah. And now she goes over there and gets busted with dope. Well, my doctor prescribed it. Oh, please. I'm so sick of that lie. You know the rules in other countries, and if you don't, that's not Russia's fault. Now they want to negotiate a trade with one of Russia's worst, most dangerous people. And Biden's willing to let him go for this? No offense, but Reiner, leave her there. Let her suffer the consequences. Pelosi, why should she get protection? She doesn't want us to have our guns. She wants to take away all assault rifles and everything, but she's got protection around the clock. She's got an entire military encircled around her in the South China Sea. What a hypocrite. So if China blows her plane out of the sky, oh well, no loss. I'm sorry, I'm not so patriotic to say, well, they're taking a shot at the U.S. Let me tell you something. The U.S. has done some stupid things. We sent all of our business to China. We go to Walmart and everything we buy is made in China. And how much do the workers in China get? Do they get health insurance? They get benefits? They're slave labor, folks. And if LeBron wants to run his mouth, his overpaid, privileged mouth, he can go down there to China and check out their genocide and the horrible things they do and start standing up against that if he thinks we're so bad over here. And by the way, I'm tired of all this anti-white sentiment in this country. I've had enough. I've seen enough from the African-American community that they need to focus on their own problems. As Morgan Freeman aptly stated, 75% of the problems in the African-American community are brought on by the black people themselves. Okay? That's all that needs to be said. Nancy Pelosi is not good. Her motives are always suspect. She does not care about democracy. She's a businesswoman with the intent of making a big pot full of money. And you can bet that is her motivation for why she's over there right now. She does not care about a democracy. If she did, she wouldn't be trashing ours. She'd be standing up and telling Joe Biden that, hey, we can't do this to hardworking Americans and not have any oil drilling until we perfect things and get it turned over to an electrical system. But no, instead they're driving us into the ground. So I'm not going to be gracious in my assessment of Miss Pelosi. She's a self-serving narcissist. She's an adult toddler. She doesn't know how to dress. Her clothing is ugly and tacky. Those ugly scarves she wears around her wrinkled neck. Her improper speaking skills of shuffling. And her husband is 80-something years old or 70s and getting drunk and driving DUI. And watch what happens with that. Nothing, because the Democrat mafia is alive and well. Folks, I'm not making this stuff up. It's the truth. It is the dead dog truth. And she's foolish to go over there. She's deliberately poking the bear. I know Russia's called the bear, but she's poking the bear with the Chinese. The U.S. is not strong enough right now to go up against them. We failed with Russia and the Ukraine. And even Putin today said Nuclear war, nobody wins. I'm sorry. I'm not a fan of Putin, but I'm not a fan of the Ukraine either. Whatever the Democrats get all behind, you got to ask yourself some questions. Joe Biden was over there with dirty oil and all that. He's against oil. Look at how much money he made off of it. Hypocrisy is defined by the left. Hypocrisy is defined by the left. They live it and embolden and model it daily. She's a foolish woman, and she herself is truly playing with fire. That's all I have to say. But Pelosi, there's nothing ladylike about her. She's crusty, she's rude, she's self-serving, she's a narcissist. She's exactly what I talked about in my channel. She is the full graduatory, valedictorian, summa cum laude example of feminism. Her husband's getting drunk and she's probably imbibing herself. She's not a happy woman. She gets what she wants. She's miserable. If you can't see it in her face and her countenance, you can tell she doesn't know Jesus. You can tell she isn't saved. You can see it. I have asked God to get these kinds of people out of power, to remove them. One day, she's going to breathe her last, and I'm not going to miss her. Okay, now I believe she could get saved. I believe she could become a Christian. Doubtless she will. But I don't like people like her who live one standard and then promote the very opposite for us. She's made her millions, and it's disgusting. She's not a servant of the people for the people. She's elected by people who don't think. She's elected by people who don't look at the hypocrisy of the very people they vote in. I'm done with my rant. This is Pacific, signing off.